Hi class, I wanted to do a really quick lecture on Super's Career Life Rainbow. So if you turn to page 11 in your Focus to Career workbooks, I'm hoping that you read page 10, 11, and 12 already. So just to give you a little bit of explanation before you begin your discussion topic for this week, I just wanted to give you some background about Donald Super. So no one has probably written as extensively about career development or influenced the study of the topic as much as Donald Super. He has done so much writing on career development. There's a lot of career development theories, but I think this one in particular is one of the most influential. So Donald Super, his earliest theoretical statements were influenced by researchers in differential psychology, developmental psychology, sociology, and personality theory. Super often stated that his view is a segmented theory consisting of several related propositions, and he hopes that an integrated theory ultimately emerges because of that. I would say the things that I mainly want to highlight here have a lot to do with the career life rainbow, which is what you see in front of you. And you also see it on page 11 in the workbook. So the idea is that you want to find a work-life balance that suits you. So we all move through different stages in our lives and our careers. And just as demands on our time in our personal lives vary, so do demands at work. So when the demand is high in one area but low in another, life and work can actually be much more enjoyable and fulfilling with that balance. But when demands are high in both areas, we tend to become overstretched, stressed, or dissatisfied. And that's why it's vital to find that right work-life balance. And the career rainbow is one way we can do that. So just a little bit about understanding the career life rainbow model. Like I said, it was developed by Donald Super to address the different career development paths. We've adapted Super's work further to take account of today's more complex work patterns because things have changed this was first developed in his book in the 50s, to modifying the ideas in the 80s, to now we're obviously in the 21st century. So you can see here in the middle that there's 8 life rules. So if we look at Super's life rules in more detail, the concept is that it'll enable you to produce a more accurate life career rainbow of your own. So the 8 rules are, and this could be kind of open to interpretation, but basically child, the time and energy that you use to relate to your parents. And this role begins at birth and continues until both of your parents are deceased. You spend a lot of time in this role early on in your life. After that, it tends to decrease until your 50s or 60s, when there's often a surge in time and attention that you may be spending caring for elderly parents, elderly grandparents, elderly family members. Then another role is that of a student. Obviously, we're students all now. So as early as 3 or 4 years old, depending on culture and your background and when you go to school, this may continue until at least the age of 16, for some 18. Although it's increasingly common that people study into their 20s if they decide to go to college. Leisurate. So this word was invented specifically by Super to describe the time that you spend on leisure activities. So many people have much more leisure time when they're children or adolescents and teens and after they've retired, usually between the ages of 25, maybe even we'll push it to 30. 30 to 50 tend to be really busy with work and taking care of a family. The next role is citizen. So that's the time and energy you devote to spending working for the community, such as unpaid volunteer work. Next would be worker, and that's the time and energy that you actually spend in paid employment. So a lot of us may start working at age 16, 17, 18, but some of you may not actually have full-time employment until maybe during or after college, or maybe even now currently. Parent is another role, and that's the time and energy you use to raising and caring for your children. This role is usually significant until your children reach their typically mid-teens, but many grown-up children stay at home during higher education or move back home as adults. So it may well, continue for a lot longer than that. And then the last 2 life roles, so that would be spouse, time and energy that you spend in a committed relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be married. And then finally, homemaker, the time and energy that you use to maintain your home life. It doesn't mean that you're not working. It could just be that as part of your life role, you're taking care of a house and home. You might be maintaining that house, whether that's cooking or cleaning or shopping for it, repairing. And this role typically starts when you leave your family's home where you were raised and then make your own brand new home for yourself. So this could be your first apartment in college, or your first apartment, um, moving in with someone, or just living by yourself in a home, whether you're renting or purchasing. So a little bit about the life stages really quickly. So when Super developed his model, people in countries generally move through five, industrialized countries, let's put it that way, move through five clear life stages. In particular, the middle part of life was taken up with the intense and often conflicting activities of, balancing hard work and parenting with little time dedicated to enjoying themselves and leisure. So today, career follows less predictable patterns. Everyone is completely different. And in your own career life rainbow, you can adjust the typical age ranges and stages listed to fit the pattern of your life. So for example, Super's life stages start out with growth, and that's typically age 14 and under. So you can see that right here. This stage focuses on physical growth, literally. It's the time when you begin forming ideas about your self-worth, about who you are, your self-concept, and you're slowly beginning to develop your interests, your talents, your abilities, your strengths, and really understanding and seeing that for the first time. The next stage is exploration, and I know a lot of students at the community college tend to be in this stage. Or if maybe you're coming back to school, or you're doing any kind of career change, exploration could typically happen in your 40s again, just because you're going back to explore. So this is when you learn about types of work available, what's required to be successful in different careers. As you learn, you grow much more committed to certain choices and narrow down those options that you actually want to pursue. Near the end of this stage, you may have analyzed tons of different occupations, different options, different majors, taking into account everything about yourself, personality, talents, interests, career expectations. So you've done some research about the world of work, so you understand what it takes to get into a particular field or industry, the salaries, the working hours, the conditions, the benefits, opportunities for advancement, what your typical day could look like. However, at this point, your future direction isn't always clear. You may find you try a career and, hey, you don't like it. That's not a problem. Or you may work in a different area and decide you want to explore different types of work within that particular industry. So you might bounce around a lot within the same company. So while your first experience of exploration may happen between the ages of 14 and 25, you're very likely going to return to this stage ongoing throughout your life as you rethink your choices. And this could happen, I can say for myself, it's happened multiple times, just because I've had jobs and, went back to school and started doing some personal development while I was in jobs. So that's a very common area. Establishment is the third stage, and that's from ages 24 to 45, 26 to 45 typically. So this life stage starts as people settle down into their chosen careers and become, quote, quote, productive members of society. It's often characterized by increased responsibility, personal satisfaction, but at the same time, that's where you see people having that quarter life or midlife crisis, or that mid-career slump. So again, kind of cycling back to exploration when people experience that establishment phase. Maintenance is the fourth stage, and that happens from typically ages 45, 46 to about 65, up and through retirement. At this stage, you're typically maintaining your existing career and have taken part in some career development activities that help keep you up to date in your job and just keep you overall satisfied. Some people might find that they're at a point where they're just kind of collecting a paycheck, counting down their days to retirement. And hopefully, if that works for you, then great. But for some, they may want to make sure that they're in a field that they can see themselves in for quite a while, just because they may be in that all the way through retirement. And the fifth stage, disengagement. So that stage is typically 65 and upward, usually after you've retired from a job. You may then choose to do other types of activities, and that moves you away from paid work and leaves you with more time for other roles, such as leisureite, homemaker, citizen. And then what's important, I think, from this whole career life rainbow is that you use it to find your work-life balance. So that's everything for the super theory. So go ahead and take a look at this and then also in your workbook before you respond to your discussion for this week.